What if the forest wasn't a place, but a thing? What if it could think? What if the camp you entered was alive, and it had already eaten everyone who came before you? Welcome to Nightmare and Fear, where the line between memory and terror vanishes with every story. We're closing in on our next big milestone, 1,000 brave souls who dared to hit that red button. Be one of them. Subscribe, like, and drop a comment before this story is over. Because tonight, you may hear your name whispered by something that shouldn't know it. I never believed the land itself could hate you. Not until I went to Camp Drell Hollow, a place that didn't appear on maps, and somehow didn't need to. It called to us. Me, Nadia, Brett, and Theo. For hikers looking for isolation and found something else entirely. A campground that was building itself. We arrived to find tents pitched, cabin frames half finished, and shovels digging in perfect rhythm on their own. No workers, no people, just fresh earth being turned over like something underground was trying to get out. We stood frozen as a row of rusty shovels struck dirt and sink. Clink, 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 and then stopped the moment we spoke. We tried to leave at sunrise, but the trees rearranged themselves. The map app on my phone showed us moving in circles, even when we walked straight. That night, Theo found a photograph nailed to a tree. It was us. The four of us. Standing in the exact camp we were in now. But the photo was dated 1986. And behind us, in the photo, was a fifth person. The others heard footsteps outside their tents at 3 a.m. Not animal steps. Boots. Heavy. Pacing. The next morning, new structures appeared. A half-finished wooden cabin. A stone well. None of us built them. Theo said he saw something at the lake. A tall man with no face, dragging a bag of hammers into the water. He called it the builder. We found Nadia in the woods. Digging. Sweating. Smiling. She didn't speak. Just kept saying, "If I dig deep enough, I'll remember who I was before this place." We tried to stop her, but when Brett grabbed the shovel, he dropped it instantly, burned his hands. It was hot as fire. Nadia never returned to camp, just vanished into the pit she made. That night, we found her voice in the wind, repeating, "Almost done, just need to go deeper." He walked into camp like he'd always been there. Tall, pale, wearing clothes that didn't match the era, like he was from 3 different decades at once. Brett asked, "Who are you?" The man smiled and said, "I helped build the first camp. Now I'm just here to finish what we started." We ran. He didn't chase us. He didn't need to. Because the camp began building faster now, on its own. Logs stacking. Nails hammering in midair. We watched the cabin roof construct itself in seconds. And the dirt kept moving, like something underneath was clawing to reach the surface. We found it under a tarp behind the well. A wooden sign, carved crudely with the words, "Only one may leave. The others stay to build." Brett snapped. He tried to run through the forest. The trees opened for him, swallowed him. We heard his screams for hours, but the forest just grew thicker. Theo whispered to me that night, "I think this place is feeding off us. One by one. Every time someone dies, a new piece of the camp finishes itself." Theo disappeared at dawn. Not a scream. No sound. Just his empty boots, standing in the center of the new wooden cabin. And in the sky above the camp, smoke curled in perfect spirals, like a signal. Like the camp was done building. All except for one piece. Me. I wasn't supposed to leave, but I did. And now I live with the fear that it's not done. It'll come find me again soon. Because every time I sleep, I dream I'm holding a hammer, wearing his boots, finishing what I started. Would you still visit a place? If the cabins built themselves? If the dirt was already digging your grave? If this story unsettled you, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We're nearing 1,000 brave souls who follow these nightmares. You'll find more horror like this every week. Only on Nightmare and Fear, where some stories bury themselves in your mind. Before you go, check behind your house. Is the ground moving? Would you ever sleep in a tent if you knew your dreams could leave footprints? What if something you saw only in your sleep could crawl out into the forest around you? Welcome to Nightmare and Fear, where shadows have stories and the woods never forget. We're on the edge of reaching 1,000 subscribers, and you can help us cross that terrifying milestone. Tap that red button, hit like, and leave a comment if this story follows you into your dreams. Now, let me tell you about the camp that should never have existed. A place where the dreams of dead campers keep building their own world, and once you sleep there, you belong to it. It was supposed to be a digital detox retreat. No phones. No screens. Just silence, nature, and the soft hush of wind in the trees. That's what Camp Miro Pines promised. What they didn't mention was the incident in 1974. They didn't tell us the camp had been shut down, or that every camper who slept there more than 3 nights had vanished into thin air, and that no bodies were ever found. I only found out after my sister disappeared there. The camp was deep in a forest with no reception. We were 10 strangers, most of them influencers looking to film something vintage scary. Only I had come for answers. The first night, I had a dream I was standing in a clearing I'd never seen before. There were tents made from skin, and fire pits full of teeth. I woke up screaming. Everyone else had dreamt the exact same thing. That morning, there was a new trail behind Cabin 3. None of us remembered it being there. It led to a clearing, the same one from our dream, down to the fire pits, the tents, everything. But we never built it. No one had. And when we tried to go back to camp, the trail was gone. The forest had changed behind us. Someone said they saw the mirror man standing in the trees. He doesn't speak. He doesn't move. He just mirrors whatever you do seconds later, like a glitch in time. That night, one of the campers, Joel, screamed in his sleep. When we ran to his tent, He wasn't there. But the zipper was open from the inside. In his place, a small pile of ash and a single eyeball still blinking. I hadn't told anyone why I really came here. But that night, I heard her. Her voice, calling me from the woods. Why did you leave me in the dream? I followed it. I didn't care if it was real. I needed to know. I walked straight into the mirror man. He copied every move I made. Until I blinked, and he didn't. He just stood there, grinning, with my sister's voice coming from his mouth. You're already sleeping. You never woke up. It was supposed to be a full moon. But when the sun set, the sky stayed pitch black. No stars. No moon. No sound. Just breathing. Coming from inside the trees. One girl tried to cut her way out of the forest. Her axe broke on the first swing. She said the bark of the trees was metallic underneath. And then we realized the forest wasn't trees anymore. It was something pretending to be. Something dreaming about us. Because we had all fallen asleep the moment we arrived and never woke up. We are inside it. Inside the dream of something ancient that feeds on consciousness. Every tent? A memory. Every trail? A thought it formed while digesting a person's mind. My sister never disappeared. She became part of the forest's sleep. And now it wants me to stay too. Because the only way to leave is to forget you were ever real. So if you ever wake up in a tent and the forest looks slightly different, if you find trails you didn't take and hear voices in your sleep, ask yourself, what if you're still dreaming? Thanks for listening to Nightmare and Fear. If this story made you second guess your next camping trip, click like, drop a comment, and subscribe. We're just a few steps from 1,000 brave subscribers. And remember, once you dream in Miro Pines, you never leave. Would you ever sleep in a tent if you knew your dreams could leave footprints? What if something you saw only in your sleep could crawl out into the forest around you? Welcome to Nightmare and Fear, where shadows have stories and the woods never forget. We're on the edge of reaching 1,000 subscribers, and you can help us cross that terrifying milestone. Tap that red button, hit like, and leave a comment if this story follows you into your dreams. Now, let me tell you about the camp that should never have existed. A place where the dreams of dead campers keep building their own world, and once you sleep there, you belong to it. It was supposed to be a digital detox retreat. No phones. No screens. Just silence, nature, and the soft hush of wind in the trees. That's what Camp Miro Pines promised. What they didn't mention was the incident in 1974. They didn't tell us the camp had been shut down, or that every camper who slept there more than 3 nights had vanished into thin air, and that no bodies were ever found. I only found out after my sister disappeared there. The camp was deep in a forest with no reception. We were 10 strangers, most of them influencers looking to film something vintage scary. Only I had come for answers. The first night, I had a dream I was standing in a clearing I'd never seen before. There were tents made from skin, and fire pits full of teeth. I woke up screaming. Everyone else had dreamt the exact same thing. That morning, there was a new trail behind Cabin 3. None of us remembered it being there. It led to a clearing, the same one from our dream, down to the fire pits, the tents, everything. But we never built it. No one had. And when we tried to go back to camp, the trail was gone. The forest had changed behind us. Someone said they saw the mirror man standing in the trees. He doesn't speak. He doesn't move. He just mirrors whatever you do seconds later, like a glitch in time. That night, one of the campers, Joel, screamed in his sleep. When we ran to his tent, he wasn't there. But the zipper was open from the inside. In his place, a small pile of ash and a single eyeball, still blinking. I hadn't told anyone why I really came here. But that night, I heard her. Her voice. Calling me from the woods. Why did you leave me in the dream? I followed it. I didn't care if it was real. I needed to know. I walked straight into the mirror man. He copied every move I made. Until I blinked, and he didn't. He just stood there, grinning, with my sister's voice coming from his mouth. You're already sleeping. You never woke up. It was supposed to be a full moon. But when the sun set, the sky stayed pitch black. No stars. No moon. No sound. Just breathing. Coming from inside the trees. One girl tried to cut her way out of the forest. Her axe broke on the first swing. She said the bark of the trees was metallic underneath. And then we realized the forest wasn't trees anymore. It was something pretending to be. Something dreaming about us. Because we had all fallen asleep the moment we arrived and never woke up. We are inside it. Inside the dream of something ancient that feeds on consciousness. Every tent? A memory. Every trail? A thought it formed while digesting a person's mind. My sister never disappeared. She became part of the forest's sleep. And now it wants me to stay too. Because the only way to leave is to forget you were ever real. So if you ever wake up in a tent and the forest looks slightly different, if you find trails you didn't take and hear voices in your sleep, ask yourself, what if you're still dreaming? Thanks for listening to Nightmare and Fear. If this story made you second guess your next camping trip, click like, drop a comment, and subscribe. We're just a few steps from 1,000 brave subscribers. And remember, once you dream in Miro Pines, you never leave. Headphone. If a tree falls in a forest and no one is around, does it make a sound? What if the trees were never falling, but getting back up? Welcome to Nightmare and Fear, where each campfire burns a memory and each story leaves ash in your soul. We're just steps away from 1,000 brave souls joining our horror community. Hit subscribe if you love stories that make you double-check your tent zipper and question what's crawling beneath your sleeping bag. Let me tell you a story that doesn't just scare you, it rewrites your memory. My name is Lyle Carver. Last summer, I signed up for a nature therapy retreat called Camp Wake Hollow, tucked deep in the Appalachian backwoods, a memory cleansing experience, they said. What they didn't say was that the camp cleansed more than memories. It erased people. When I arrived, I was given a canvas bag with a flashlight, a metal key, and a leather-bound journal. The counselor, a man named Danner, told me, every night, write down everything you remember. In the morning, check it. If something's gone missing, you're healing. At first, it seemed like a weird meditation exercise. But I played along. That first night, I wrote, my name is Lyle Carver. I arrived at Camp Wake Hollow today. I met 7 other campers. Cabin 3 smells like pine and bleach. There's a statue in the woods. A woman with no face. The next morning, my journal was missing 3 lines. Literally gone. Ripped from the page. No tear marks. No ink. Just blank space. I found the statue from my notes. It was deep in the forest, a woman with hands pressed to where her face should be. No plaque. No name. That night, I dreamed it was standing in my cabin, arms down, facing me. When I woke up, my pillow was damp, with dirt. Forest dirt. I asked Danner. He just said, she remembers what you forget. One camper, Elise, swore she saw a new cabin that hadn't been there the day before. Cabin 9. We followed her. There was a cabin. Withered, rotting, half swallowed by vines. But it had no door. Inside the window, we saw a bed, and someone lying still beneath the covers. We broke in through the side. The bed was empty, except for a stack of journals. All of them ended the same way. If you forget too much, you stay. Elise vanished that night. I met a man at the edge of the forest. His eyes were pale, like fogged glass. He smiled when he saw me. First time here? He said his name was Ron. Said he was here last summer too, and the one before that. He told me the camp doesn't want you to leave with memories. It wants to reuse you. We're recycled, he whispered. Erased and reprinted. The next day, no one had heard of a man named Ron. Even the counselor looked confused. In my journal, I had written, "Met Ron. He knows." But in the morning, it just said, "Met. He." By now, 5 campers were gone. No goodbyes. No announcements. Just beds left cold. That night, I snuck out with a headlamp and my journal. I went to the statue. I carved into the dirt beside it. My name is Lyle Carver. If I'm gone, find this. Then I ran into the woods. For hours, I walked. But the trees kept shifting. Like they were watching. Like they were circling me in place. Eventually, I came to a cabin. Cabin 9. Inside was my bed. And my journal. The same one. The last page now read, "You came back. You always do." Today I woke up in cabin 3. There are 7 of us here. I found a journal on my bed, but nothing inside. No name. No history. Just a note on the cover. Write it all down, before you forget again. There's a statue out there. I feel like I've seen it in a dream. I don't know why I'm here. But something tells me I've always been here. If this story made your skin crawl or made you question your own memories, make sure to subscribe to Nightmare and Fear. We're almost at 1,000 subscribers, and every one of you makes these stories possible. Hit that like button, drop a comment, and remember, the woods don't just take you, they erase you. Headphone, what if the very ground beneath your tent was watching you sleep? What if the canvas around you could learn your secrets and betray you? Welcome back to Nightmare and Fear, where every camping trip could become your last. If you love true-to-life horror that seeps into your bones, like, comment, and subscribe. We're hunting for our 1,000th brave soul. Now, tuck in close to your mic and steady your breath. Because tonight's tale will make you question whether your tent is your shelter or your captor. My name is Serena West, and I thought I was signing up for a simple art retreat in the woods. For days of plein-air painting, fresh air, and campfires. Instead, I found a place that lived and learned. From every stroke of my brush and every whispered secret. We arrived at Camp Brushwood late afternoon, each carrying a canvas tent and our art supplies. The site coordinator, an elderly painter named Fletcher, handed us keys stamped with a tiny eye. These tents will hold your masterpiece and your memories. Treat them gently. That night, I woke to soft creaks in my tent, like cloth stretching over something alive. Then a whisper. "Show me more." My breath caught. I peered through the tent flap and saw no one. But I felt eyes. The canvas walls glowed faintly, as if breathing. We painted all morning. I was working on a portrait of a golden leaf tree. By noon, the painting had vanished from my easel, gone without a trace. In its place, a muddy handprint on the canvas, smudged into the wood grain. Fletcher passed by and murmured, "The tent learns from you. Sometimes it corrects mistakes." That evening, I caught the tent's fabric pulsing, rippled like skin. When I asked Fletcher what he meant by correcting mistakes, he only tapped his eye key and walked away. At sunset, each of us gathered by the campfire to share our work. Mara showed a serene lake, but the tent behind her wove rippling stitches of blood-red thread across the fabric, spelling 2 words. "You lied." She hadn't. None of us had. But that night, I dreamed of a dark hand sewing into my hair as I slept. I woke with strands tied together, knots I never made. We decided to leave at dawn, but our packs were missing. In their place, empty tents bore new embroidery, our names, and underneath, what the tents thought of us. On my tent, stitched in tight black loops, hides fear. A terror bloomed in my chest. Fletcher found us trying to hike out and only shook his head. You can't leave until the canvas is satisfied. It wants a masterpiece, or a confession. Before I could respond, the wind tore through the clearing, collapsing tents like dominoes. The canvas walls shrieked as they fell, each crash a scream of canvas tearing flesh. We had one chance: paint the tent itself. Under flickering lantern light, I set up my easel facing the largest tent, its flaps now hanging like gaping jaws. I painted every detail: the rusted poles, the stitching, the keyhole that gleamed with malice. As I added the final shadow under the flap, the tent convulsed, and a shape stepped out. A pale figure with my own eyes, pinning me with its gaze. It whispered, in my voice, "Thank you for unveiling me." I dropped my brush. The figure lunged, and the canvas swallowed us both. I woke up next morning, alone on a forest path, clutching a blank canvas. No memory of the others. My journal only held one entry in neat, looping script. I painted the tent. It thanked me. Sometimes, at dusk, I see the eye key glinting among my belongings. And when I close my eyes, I feel the canvas breath against my skin, waiting for me to finish the portrait it started. Would you trust a tent that remembered every secret and painted your fear back at you? Let me know in the comments what you'd confess. If the canvas demanded the truth, and if this story crept under your skin. Smash that subscribe button and help us reach 1,000 on Nightmare and Fear. Because every new subscriber strengthens the canvas's weave and its appetite. Stay vigilant, and sleep with one eye open. Your tent might be watching tonight. Candle. Headphone. What if the forest had a heartbeat, and it was calling your name? What if the whispers you thought were wind were actually words meant just for you? Tonight, you'll learn that some camps aren't built by humans, but by something far older. Welcome to Nightmare and Fear, where every story lodges itself in your mind like a splinter. We're on the brink of our 1,000th subscriber, and you could be the one to push us over the edge. If you crave horror that feels all too real, like, comment, and subscribe now, before the forest claims another listener. My name is Ava North. When I signed up for the wilderness retreat at Camp Sylvan Echo, I expected guided hikes and campfire yoga. What I found was a place where you never truly leave, and where your own past comes back to haunt you. We arrived at a moss-covered archway reading "Welcome, friends." No staff. No cabins. Just 5 of us, and a path lined with footprints that seemed too fresh for a camp that closed 30 years ago. That night, I lay in my nylon tent and heard a soft tap-tap-tap on the fabric. A voice, so faint I thought I imagined it, whispered, "Ava, come find me." But there was no Ava in our group. I was the only one with that name. At dawn, I found footprints leading away from camp, small, childlike, and half-buried in fern. I followed them to a clearing where a single wooden chair faced an empty fire pit. Sitting there was a girl about 10 years old, wearing clothes so faded they blended into the trees. She smiled and waved, but when I approached, she vanished, leaving behind a tiny handprint on my wrist, warm as if still alive. By the third night, each of us heard our names whispered beyond our tents, softly, urgently. Ben said he heard his late grandmother calling him for dinner. Lily heard her childhood dogs bark. Marcus swore it was his best friend from middle school, begging for help. I heard my own laughter, the sound of me as a child, giggling in my grandmother's attic. But my grandmother died long before I was born. We tried to leave, but every trail looped back to the same archway. Compasses spun. GPS showed us in the middle of the lake. That evening, we gathered at the fire pit and Lily started humming an old campfire song none of us knew. Soon, we all joined in, drawing the words from memories we never made. As we sang the final line, the ground trembled, and a hollow voice joined ours. Sing and stay. Marcus disappeared at midnight. I found his tent empty, zipper halfway down. No footprints outside. In the morning, we followed little footprints into the woods. They led us back to the chair, where the girl sat, rocking. She held Marcus's watch and said, softly, "He's learning my song now." When she handed it to me, I heard a crack inside my head, like a record skipping. At sunrise, Lily and Ben were gone. Marcus stared at the lake for hours, repeating that song without stopping. I realized then, Camp Sylvan Echo doesn't just replay the past. It absorbs you, replaying your disappearance in an endless loop. And the girl, she was the camp's memory, trapped between breaths. I stayed so the camp could finish its song. I rebuilt the fire pit with stones from the stream. I sang every lyric the girl taught me. When I spoke her name, Eloise, the trees exhaled a gust of wind that knocked me off my feet. All at once, I saw every camper who ever vanished here standing in a circle, eyes turned toward me. They whispered my name in unison, and the girl stepped forward, now older, her face clear. "Thank you for singing me home." She touched my forehead, warm, like the moss under the archway. And I felt my own memories fade. I woke up at dawn, back at the trailhead, alone, with a single canvas camp chair and a note. "Sing our names. Come play again." When I looked down, I saw 2 sets of footprints leading back into the woods, one mine, and one much smaller. And I realized, the camp never let me go. I'm its new invitation. If you woke up at the edge of a forest and heard a child call your name, would you follow the echo back inside? Let me know in the comments, would you sing their song? And if tonight's tale sent chills down your spine, subscribe to Nightmare and Fear and join our growing family of 1,000 brave souls. Because once you hear the forest call, you'll never stop listening. Candle. What if the forest doesn't care about your fear, because it only feeds off your silence? Welcome back to Nightmare and Fear, the home of horror stories that crawl into your ears and refuse to leave your mind. If you're new here and enjoy stories that no other channel dares to tell, go ahead and subscribe. We're on the road to 1,000 brave souls, and your click might just be the one that tips the scale. Turn down the lights. Put your headphones on. And whatever you do, don't speak while you listen. Because tonight's story is called "They Warned Us Before We Even Got on the Bus." There are no birds at Stillvale. There are no insects. There are no echoes. Do not speak above a whisper after dark. We thought it was just some creepy campfire myth, a way to mess with newcomers. But it was real. All of it. This story happened to me 2 summers ago when I volunteered at a youth retreat called Camp Stillvale, deep in the Oregon wilderness. The place was beautiful in the worst way, too still, like someone had hit pause on the whole forest. The lake barely rippled. Trees never swayed. And the silence wasn't just a lack of sound. It felt active, like something watching you was holding its breath. The first night, I made the mistake of laughing. I was swapping stories with the other counselors when I let out a loud chuckle, and everything stopped. The fire fizzled low. Every other voice fell silent. And something in the woods made a crunching step toward us. It wasn't an animal. It didn't even move like a person. It was like sound had shape. And mine had just called it over. When I woke up the next morning, I couldn't hear my own footsteps. Not muffled, completely gone. I asked the others if they noticed anything strange, but they just stared at me blankly and shook their heads. Except Riley. She leaned in and whispered, "You're next." The kids arrived in the morning, 10 of them. Happy, loud, energetic. By nightfall, 2 of them weren't making any sound at all. No talking. No coughing. Even when one fell and scraped his knee, he opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Not even a cry. Riley told me Camp Stillvale was built over an old logging village, one that vanished in a winter storm without a single scream. Legend said the forest had made a deal with something to silence the screams. And now, that thing was still hungry. That night, we heard it. Not footsteps. Not breathing. The absence of sound itself. Like something moved by stealing the noises around it. Trees would sway, but their creaks never came. Branches cracked under invisible weight, but we heard nothing. I shone my flashlight toward the tree line and saw something wrong with the shadows. Something tall. Too long. Hollowed out where a face should be. And as my light touched it, the bolt popped in silence. Every time I spoke above a whisper, more of my voice disappeared the next day. By noon, I sounded hoarse. By dusk, I couldn't say my own name. I tried to write to the other counselors, but the ink just faded from the page seconds after I set it down. I looked at Riley in panic. She mouthed something I'll never forget. Stillvale doesn't take your life. It takes your volume. Until you're part of the silence. The lake was always too calm. That should have been our clue. 3 campers walked into it that morning. Not to swim. To follow the voice they couldn't hear but somehow understood. They went willingly. No splashes. No screams. They simply sank, like they were returning home. The surface never rippled. Not even once. That night, I found Riley standing by the fire pit, her lips moving. No sound. She reached out and pressed her fingers to my throat. Then, I felt my own heartbeat shift. It was no longer mine alone. It was matching something else's rhythm, something buried beneath this camp. She mouthed, "Only one of us can leave." So I did the only thing I could. I screamed. And in that scream, I gave it everything I had left. I woke up by the highway. Mouth dry. Voice gone. In my hand was the camp's old welcome sign. Camp Stillvale, a place to quiet the mind. The strange part? When I speak now, no one hears me. But when I whisper at night, into the trees or into the walls, something whispers back. If you ever find a camp that tells you to stay silent after dark, don't just leave. Run. Did this story mute your sense of comfort? Then subscribe to Nightmare and Fear and help us reach our first 1,000 fearless fans. Because some stories don't end, they just get quieter. And we'll be whispering another one, very soon. Candle.